Asai, goeiemôre.
Morning.
Good
morning.
Daar is ons.
Yes.
Gitta, het jy genoeg warm goed aan vandag?
Ja, ek het dubbel in 3 fout klere aan vandag, maar my kar het 'n bietjie swaar gekry toe ek aankom.
Welkom aan Gitta Paetzold. Op kort kennisgewing het ons vir haar gesê sy moet by ons kom kuier. Ons gaan nou met haar gesels. Onthou Dinsdae is altyd toerisme. Ons praat 'n bietjie later met Mark Paxton oor die International Ranger Day wat Sondag was. So omgewingsake, toerisme. Ons het ook 'n spesiale gas vandag, net omdat die man so besig is. Hy het nie anders in tyd gehad nie en dis niemand anders as Rolf Hansen. Ons gaan nou vir hom verwelkom hier op die bank. Maar hier kom hy opgedraf, ons gaan eers vir hom daar rustig laat sit. Môre Rolf, gaan dit goed volgende?
Hallo Rolf.
Sit gerus, ons gaan nou met jou gesels. En dan vir almal van julle wat ingeskakel het en gister ingeskakel het. Duisende dankies. Kaufeee, dit was heerlik geweest.
Yesterday was a fantastic day for all your comments, your participation, not only from Namibia, obviously the Namibians are important to us, but from abroad too, from Australia to Rousseau Hill, who's on that support ship, who always supports us, and all the others. Thank you very much for joining us.
Weet jy, ons het ook gister gesê, jy het gister gesê, ons het so gedreig. Piet het Vrydag uit Bloemfontein toe sê, julle in Namibia gaan koud kry.
Yes.
Wag vir dat julle beurt kom. En toe gisteraand toe jy vir my boodskap stuur en sê vanoggend gaan -5 wees, toe dink ek by myself, daai kan nie wees nie.
Ja.
Maar weet jy wat Kaufeee, ons het vanoggend hierdie bydraes gekry. Ons kyk gou hierna. So daar was die weerkaart geweest. En jy kan sien op daai kaart wat die temperature sê. En hier is wat ons gekry het, wat ouens vir ons ge-WhatsApp het.
Ja.
So daar kan julle nou sien die temperature.
Koue
Temperature.
temperature.
Daar so -9 vanoggend.
Ice cold.
Ja. Ons het hier ICEP kamp -13 vanoggend. Daar sien julle dit. Hulle het vir ons die foto gestuur. Kapsfarm -9 vanoggend. So dit is hoe hulle ingekom het. So die ouens was nie heeltemal verkeerd geweest nie. En dis hoekom ons so aangetrek is. Ek wil nou nie hier karring nie, maar hier's nog 'n lang onderbroek ook hier onder die ding aan.
Yeah.
En bootse.
Yes. So it gets colder here around about 6:20 in the mornings. That is when the temperatures drop. And we all know the reason why. Do we know why this happens?
Vertel jy nou vir ons.
No, because it's quite, well, logical. So you've got the Earth, and as sunrise comes, the sun warms the air at the top of the atmosphere and then pushes the cold air down, and that is why it gets so cold here from about 6:15, 6:20 in the mornings. But then at about 8-ish, 8:30, it then starts
And
warming
all the
up
while, I
again.
thought it was to get us out of bed and really make us jump up.
Absolutely, yes.
En Gitta het 'n barometer aan.
Yes.
Sy haar lese vandag is I'm hot if not.
If not, so what?
En so wat. Gitta, welkom. Kom ons gesels gou 'n bietjie toerisme sake aan. En spesifiek verlede week se groot kongres by die kus. Dit vir my na baie suksesvolle kongres gekluk. So gee 'n bietjie vir ons agtergrond rondom dit.
Ja, wel, toerisme het ons 'n bietjie teëspoed beleef en as ek sê bietjie dan onderdryf ek. We really had 2 terrible years, corona driven.
Right.
The whole world suffered and Namibia suffered very, very badly. Tourism was almost down to its knees. But I've never, and I can say it now loud and clear, Namibia are most probably, or Namibians are most probably one of the most resilient nation out there. We didn't give up and the proof is in the pudding. Our tourism numbers have recovered to such an extent that we can actually start smiling again, and I'm trying to smile.
Is it true that I saw in the newspapers at some stage that post-corona, or it might have been for this year, I'm just saying, that we've had something like 40,000 tourists already into the country?
The ministry actually released their tourism report from 2021, and there they counted some 270,000 people coming in. Now, you know, of the 1.5 million that we had pre-corona,
Yes.
We from the tourism industry, and Rolf Hansen, who's also partly in the industry, would know that only about a third of those 1.5 million people are actually bona fide leisure travelers that come here and actually
Right.
spend money.
Right.
Those are the people we want to count as leisure tourists. We are, if I go according to our HUN occupancy figures that we've done ever since, I mean, from a 6% occupancy during 2020, we went up to about 25, 26% last year. That was our first tourism revival recovery year. Now we're almost back 2/3 of normality. So we're not 2/3 occupied.
Right.
the last occupancy figures that we had for July, which is the start of our high season, was just under 40%, 39%. But that's already 2/3 to where we wanted to be in 2019. 2019 being our last good year.
Yeah.
So we're going there. We're going
Fantastic.
there faster than we thought. Remember, in the bad COVID times, we talked
Yes.
about 2025 as being the time when we won't stop.
I remember you saying
Exactly.
that. Has that now moved on a little bit
Definitely,
or
And the
sooner?
interest is there. I mean, Namibia, and thanks to the guys like you who reach out beyond our borders.
Yeah, yeah.
Namibia is the kid on the block at the moment. The interest is tremendously high. You can see our airlines are really, really smiling as well.
Yeah.
Right.
For the first time ever in the history of Namibia, has one airline actually put in 10 flights a week linking
Yeah.
us to the international
Yeah.
world.
Wow.
So things are really looking up, and it's all because we didn't give up and we kept the Namibian face out there. We promoted and
Okay.
we screamed and shouted, and yes, with the help, and get back to your question, the summit that we had was
Yes, please tell us more
United
about it.
Nations
Yeah.
World Tourism
Yeah.
Organization, the 4th edition of the Youth in Africa Tourism Forum.
What's the interest in youth? Is it because of future development, growth?
Definitely so, and,
yeah.
and you would know that back in 2009 already we
Yeah.
started a tourism awareness campaign because we felt that our youth don't know about tourism. They also always would venture into careers in the medical field, in the
Yes,
mining
yes.
field, engineering, nurses, doctors, that kind of thing. But when you say come and work for us in tourism, the questions that we had was, what is tourism? So
Yeah,
we
yeah,
started
yeah,
that
yeah.
tourism awareness campaign back in 2009. And still then, you remember that, we always also fought for a place on the pedestals in terms of economic contribution to the GDP, and tourism was never there. It was always mining, fishing, agriculture.
Yeah.
Oh, right. So it was
So-
kind of forgotten.
Yeah. For 20 years we fought for the place in the sun, and we seem to have gotten it. Tourism is now being recognized as a key player when it comes to GDP contribution. Most importantly, though, job creation, and that's where this whole United Nations youth and tourism drive is coming from, especially in Africa, where tourism is also not very high on the agenda. They say, youth, see your opportunities, see your chances in tourism, and that's why that tourism focus was on tourism opportunities and challenges for youth.
If I may just barge in here, Doug.
No, you're welcome.
I know, Gitta, that I spoke to you, I think it might have been last year sometime, where we spoke about, your envisioning 2025 and now that it's going so good. I know we spoke about employment at the time, and you said, post-COVID in the tourism sector, if it goes well, there are going to be some very good employment opportunities because there were so many organizations that had to let people go or retrench or maybe just keep them aside, until they could. Is that still the case, that there are still quite a number of employment opportunities?
The case has actually gotten worse, and it's not only in Namibia. You see the chaos in Europe at the moment where they don't have enough employees to cater for the demand in travel. So the airports are going crazy and the airlines are going crazy. And we here in Namibia, and that was one of the key topics that we had at our AGM on the 1st of June as well, where our members have said we've lost all the good people that we had to let go or sort of park
Right.
on sabbaticals or sort of semi-retrenched in 2020 when we were made to shut down.
Yes.
We've lost them permanently to big corporates that all need people that have skills in human relations and customer care, etc. And they're not coming back because, tourism is a 24/7 industry, and it seems as though some people like the 8 to 5 jobs. And in tourism, we always start working when others start playing.
Yeah.
To the extent that I've now got instruction from my members to say, Gitta, for next year we will have to put on a congress that shows the youth and the world out there that tourism is an industry to reckon with and an industry to consider when trying to venture into a career or even, climb the career ladder.
One of our main big contributors that we've had on the show a number of times up to now is Chef Terry Jenkinson from the Silver Spoon Academy. And this must be really good news for organizations like that because, qualified youngsters, let's say in the culinary experience and all that are, I would almost say, kind of guaranteed a job once they've qualified.
Yeah, it should be. We've had 2 incidences now where people from Europe, the big Hansa parks from Germany, have come to Namibia to scout. To say, please, can your youngsters, I'm sure Namibia has not recovered yet, and
Right.
while you're still recovering, we need them to play to work in our play parks, those big entertainment parks that they have both in northern Germany and in southern Germany. So they lured them over there with the promise of a good salary, because if you earn in euros, then it's times 16, almost 17.
Correct.
And also option for skills development as well. So we lost about 30 to the Hansa Park for this year. They are coming back with the promise that they will be more experienced and more skilled when they do come back. But yes, it is true. But still, the culinary arts is one thing. We need hospitality.
Hospitality.
We need
Yes.
logistics. We need tourism is everything. So
Yes,
in any field, whether you are good in science or good in accounting,
Housekeeping,
exactly.
you know those.
We need those people in tourism, and we've got a huge shortage. But it needs to run, because at the moment I've run a short survey among our members, because the bank said, Gitta, if we want you to set up a big sort of showcase of what is needed and where we can go, and I've spoken to the tertiary education people as well to make sure that their training is sort of aligned to the new needs or the new norms that are created now. They said we first need to establish the baseline, so we need to know how many staff are actually short. And there I still sense that tiny bit of hesitancy, because people are not out of the woods yet. Finances are still pressing, and they don't dare employ new staff if they don't know that there won't be any doors shut, etc. But I think now is the good time to really start looking forward, because I think worldwide also, not only in Namibia, COVID has taken second place. We need to look forward, and yes, it's not gone yet, but there are huge opportunities for us to build on and move forward, and I think now's the time to put everything in place.
Kaufeee, just by the by, we got a confirmation that Tom Mutafchik will be here tomorrow.
Fantastic.
Talking
Yes.
about careers and development,
Yes.
and also the interest in the academy, and of course the competition and the problems and challenges they face. So Tom Mutafchik will be here tomorrow. Thank
Good
you very
news.
much for that. We got the confirmation. Terry sent us the message. Gitta, just back to the conference of last week. What about contributions from the United Nations in terms of youth development, or the development of youth and the interest or careers in Namibia?
Look, the United Nations World Tourism Organization, they were here in late 2020 already, because the Secretary General of UNWTO assigned himself to the push for tourism in Africa. So Africa has been, he said time for Africa is now, and time for Africa tourism promotion is now. So they started with the COVID tourism recovery already way back in 2020, and Namibia pushed forward and said, what about us hosting some of your events? So we had an event last year in June, and this year was the 4th Youth and Tourism Africa Summit that was hosted. The launch was in Swakopmund, but the actual summit now took place at the Safari Court Hotel and Conference Center last week. Had an attendance of over 1,000 people, not only physically there were about 300-400 in the hall at the end, with all the officials and the planners and the participants and the presenters, but we had a lot of virtual participation percentage as well. The topic was all around potential of tourism growth, but more so opportunities, career paths, commercial opportunities for the youth to actually venture into entrepreneurship. That was key. Then they had discussions on capital access, and that's been the key problem, where they said, it's fine and well, you have a good idea, but you need capital, and that's why we still have that imbalance of the haves and the good established tourism companies that also took a real big knock during COVID, and they've got financial liabilities now that really hurt. But those people that have never had the chance to actually access capital to build up a little lodge, albeit a little shuttle service operation or whatever, and that was also under discussion, and also just luring out the creative minds of the youth to say, listen here, you don't need to own a hotel to be part of tourism. You can offer an entertainment program, or a little souvenir shop, or supply be it vegetables or mechanical services, etc. Tourism is everybody's business, and everybody has a place in tourism, because tourism is actually the way we live, the interaction of people.
It makes it such a fantastic industry, hey? Where we, like for instance, it's, and I'm not accusing the financial industry, but the financial people, they are all these very high qualified, parallel thinkers, and the tourism industry has got space for everyone.
We need them to keep us in line. So the financial experts, we need them desperately now in tourism as well. So tourism really is open there for opportunities. It just needs to be grabbed, and people need to have the right attitude. That's what I say. You don't need to have top skills and, a master's degree.
Yes.
The attitude to life needs to be correct.
Talking about tourism is for all. One of the interesting things is, and we all know that, it's kind of, we drive past it and we don't even notice the craftsmanship, the handcrafts, the people sitting next to the road selling, what could be, a little bit of an income for that week. Is there any organization or movement or I don't know what to call it, sort of like someone that take care and say, let's also have a look at the informal traders' wants and needs, because the tourists are coming here and they want to buy that woodcraft artwork. They're looking forward to that.
Yes.
But it's like when difficult and hard times come, then there's like a curtain that just shut on those people and they must just do their own thing or die. Any organization, any movement looking out for them?
Yes, we do have. I mean, NAXO is there. That's a Namibian organization for all the community-based tourism activities. They are there, and I've just had a meeting just before I came here with a NAXO-initiated meeting with a huge delegation, ministerial delegation from Somaliland. Now, that's an enclave of Somalia up north. Cheetah Conservation Fund has actually started up a project there because of the theft of little cheetah puppies into the UAE at some point, and they are now trying to develop a sanctuary for cheetahs in Somaliland. Apparently, I was told this morning that they've got more cheetahs currently in Somaliland than in Namibia.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very protected. Dr. Malari Mako is there as well. And the Somaliland delegation was here to actually tap into our brains in terms of tourism development and how tourism and conservation go together. And to the case again, and I hate referring to COVID all the time, but I mean, we still landed. We noticed very quickly that, come some development that hits tourism, all those little crafters that you are referring to, they felt it immediately. So, they basically, the tablecloth was pulled off the
Yes,
table.
because there's a certain hierarchy, isn't it?
Exactly, but we need them just as much as they need us.
Sure.
So it goes hand in hand. And that's the whole beauty of Namibian tourism, is that, what we sell is not necessarily, yes, it costs a lot of money to set up camp in terms of big hotels and logistics, but the people that come to Namibia don't come here to visit a Gitta's Lodge or a Gitta's Hotel. They want to see the Namibian crafters. They want to see the action, the community, the culture, etc. And that's why we work hand in hand, and that's basically part of my lobby work as well, to work with the Namibia Heritage Council. We're working on a Heritage Week, which will take place in September, where they actually look at the crafters, they look at music, they look at, last year was fashion was one of the topics. So in as much as we sell tourism and we do need to put infrastructure in place to actually house the tourists coming here, our focus in promoting tourism and to color in the structures that we have is very much to the culture. And this morning I learned that Somaliland seems to have more rock paintings than we have in Namibia.
Interesting.
But it's undeveloped and they don't have infrastructure to lure tourists there. But once they get going, that's why I always say in Namibia we must keep on our toes, because other countries have other beautiful things too. We thrive on our cheetahs, we thrive on our rock paintings, and the next morning I hear that other people have the same and maybe even more, and they are closer to our main market. So we need to be very vigilant, we need to be active and remain positive. Namibia's got good things going for us, but we need to protect what we have. We need to build on and conserve the beauty that we have here in Namibia. That's key.
Miss Teen, I looked at the newspaper yesterday, and her outfit was based on the Welwitschia.
I saw that. It was
And
interesting.
it was spectacular. It was beautiful. It was beautiful, and the artist or the designer basically say it's not about just the beauty, but the resilience and, the uniqueness thereof. And I must say the photograph, I think it does justice to the outfit, but it must have been beautiful to see her on stage. And she actually walked away with the big prize.
I'm definitely going to go and look at it.
Yeah, have a look at our show to you after the show.
Some people always
Amazing.
laugh about pageants, but from all the pageants that we've had, also Chelsea Chikongo did well in promoting Namibia and promoting the country and its diversity so well. And I see little Miss Tina, Alexa Schwab, doing the same.
Wow.
Hanging the flag high for Namibia. And if we all work together and expose what we have, I think we can go places.
We're not going to talk about figures and which market is working harder now. Like I'm referring here to the car rental versus the hotels and so forth. We're talking about Namibia. shining bright and doing its thing. And I think congratulations is in the order of the day with your nomination for a big award. Now, it's new to us. We have not heard a lot about it, but just give us a little bit of a background on the award and the organization.
Well, I was surprised myself. Now, during COVID, we sat behind the computer for very, very long, doing virtual tours and virtual meetings with fellow sufferers in tourism. And at some point, we had a meeting with Africans from various countries in Africa and also Africans in the diaspora, that say Americans, who said time for Africa is now. We need to promote tourism in Africa. Inter-Africa trade has been on the cards, but tourism in Africa is not recognized as an economic powerhouse as it should be. And we in Namibia have felt it quite early enough to say that Namibia is not, anything different than the rest of Africa in terms of promoting tourism and not only mining and fishing, although we need it, and we saw it now with our development also in the south, where we hope to unlock the potential of Talgai Park for tourism, and here comes green hydrogen, and we can work with them as well, because that's an attraction and a story to tell. So tourism is all about telling stories. So Africans joined heads and they formed the African Tourism Board, and some 20 countries have sort of linked onto the Namibian Ministry of Environment and Forestry and Tourism has also endorsed Africa Tourism Board, and as part of the African Tourism Board activities, there was a company called the Pine Awards. They started an initiative 5 years ago to actually identify people in tourism.
Nigerian company.
It's a Nigerian company to identify people in tourism that do something for tourism promotion. It's very, very new. I was actually surprised to hear about them and to actually see that Namibia also is part of their list of nominees. Mine is one of, I think, 137 nominations in various categories, from hospitality to people in tourism to products, etc. It's a start, and I think that the value of it is that it is putting African tourism on the map, and the interconnectivity of African countries. So we are all one, and we all want to promote this, what very many people still refer to as that big dark continent. There are huge stories to tell from Africa and from Nigeria in the northwest to South Africa, Namibia in the southwest. We want to tell the stories, and we're all part of one big family.
Yeah, and that is quite interesting. Look, in the past we've learned that people visit Namibia, and from there on they might, let's say, go to Botswana or South Africa. Vic Falls maybe a little bit on the Zambian side and all that. But I think that, wouldn't you agree that there's so many more opportunities that can be developed? Let's say Angola, Zimbabwe, Mozambique. I mean, we talk about
just
the
north of our country in terms of tourism.
The
far north.
Yeah,
Oshikati to the river.
Regions where we had a sort of a working trip in 2017 already, but it takes time to develop. We also saw it, and I spoke to the people from Somaliland this morning and said 20 years ago we also didn't have the hundreds of lodges that we currently have around our national parks. So it takes developing, but the key for promotion of tourism in Africa is also the inter-Africa trade. So for me as an African, as a Namibian, to travel to Morocco, I would most probably have to fly to Europe first and go back to Africa. And that kind of interconnectivity is something that we need to work on now as well. Yes, our main market still comes from Central Europe, and we're still not there where we want to be in terms of getting the Americans here, and the Asian market is still in baby shoes as well. But we should also look beyond our borders. And transfrontier tourism is a key product that we are working on, and we have been in contact with our neighboring countries. Namibia is lucky to have 5 neighbors, so Africa Eden was formed linking us to Botswana, Zambia and Zimbabwe in terms of us and our access to the Vic Falls, which is the big drawing card. So a lot of projects have already started and developed, and Han is part of the Africa Eden, so we talked a lot to our various governments in terms of opening borders, getting the uni visa that we've been talking about for I think 10 years ago and more. To get that in place, and hopefully one day we'll get an Africa visa, so that we as Africans don't need a visa if we want to go to Morocco or Nigeria or whatever. That is key, and that is all part of putting tourism on the map. And if Pioneer Awards does it, irrespective of who's nominated and who can vote, because apparently the links don't work, but it doesn't matter.
We still hold our thumbs for your nominations, and we're gonna watch it.
The nice thing is that we are part of that big development of tourism promotion for Africa, for Africans.
Gitta, thank you very much. I know your time is tight. You must run, and I promise that I will keep you to your time. But I also want your promise that you will come and visit us again soon.
Definitely.
Once a month we talk about tourism conservation and so forth, and that is on Tuesdays. we got a special guest, Rolf Hansen, but he is as much part of that world as he is for the Cancer Association. We will talk to Mark Paxton a little bit later about the International Ranger Day that was on Sunday and all their trials and tribulations. We've heard about a couple of deaths in the Kruger Park, people that got shot because of the excellent work that they do. Poachers don't like that, syndicates don't like it, and it's a very, very sad story, but we'll talk about that a bit later. And then remember, next week we will continue Tuesdays having this discussion, but our international calls will be done once a month.
Yeah.
So your contributions from South Africa, Botswana, from overseas, you're very welcome. And Kaufeee, after the ad break, we're gonna have Rolf Hansen on the bench, and then we're also going to look at who is connecting with us and who's sending us messages. Gitta, you take care.
Thank you, Gitta.
And,
it was nice having you on the
yeah,
program.
we're going to go for an ad break, and we'll be back after this.
At Vintage you can now even buy your charcoal, your blitz, and your braaiwood straight from the bar. Buy yourself one of our new juicy braai packs, vorst packs, or steaks. And make use of our new braai tables, our new built-in braai, or in our mobile braai drum outside. Vintage Bar and Grill.
Daar's hy. Kyk, daar's hy. Daar's jy.
There he is. In levende lyf. Ons is op.
Ons is daar.
Dis ons sien, dis net.
Ja, so ja, dis 'n bietjie van 'n daar's 'n bietjie van 'n time dit. Welkom Rolf Hansen. Nou jy soos Gitta is julle is besig en daar was so 'n pragtige liedjie oor die klein jakkalsies. Jy weet, en maar julle is klein jakkalsies wat groot vure aan die brand steek, maar vure met 'n rede. En soos Gitta gesê het, ek wil by julle kom gesels, ek kan kom gesels, maar ek het net soveel tyd. Rolf Hansen sê vir my gister, ek wil by jou wees, ek gaan by jou wees, maar ek het net soveel tyd.
Vanoggend het ek bietjie meer as net so bietjie tyd, maar gister
Wow, come on Rolf, I can imagine.
Hoorie sommer, ek wil weer eens, ons het gister hieroor gesels, die Acacia Nuus Cancer Awareness Week,
Yes.
1 tot 5 Augustus, ons het gister hiervan melding gemaak. Ons was al in media so lank deel daarvan. En ek is jammer, daar's 'n pragtige woord in Afrikaans, ek nag jou.
Ja.
Ja.
Ek nag jou om te kom gesels. Ek nag jou om te kom praat, maar
Ek wil lekker om hier op die bank
ja,
te wees.
ek wil net vir 'n geval jy dalk vergeet van al jou projekte wat jy aan die gang het. Wil ek hê jy moet vir ons kom vertel wat hierdie week gaan gebeur. Daar's jou boekie en jy kan aanhaal, want dan kan ek sê jy het dit gesê.
And just before he starts, this bookie that we're referring to was in most of the newspapers.
Right.
So you should have that quite
Ja, dit was
readily at
gister.
hand.
Gister.
Yes. So if you haven't got this little leaflet, you can contact the Cancer Association of Namibia, and you are very welcome to also visit our online media. So we're on
Yeah.
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, as well as our website, and this one will go live on our social media and interactive pages. Maar om vir ons luisteraars en kykers na buite te verduidelik, die Nasionale Kankerbewusmakingsweek is inisiatief wat van stapel gestuur is deur die Kankervereniging in 2017. The primary reason behind this is we all fear cancer. We're
sure.
dead afraid of that big C, groot K.
Ja, ja.
And it is a very traumatic disease. It is a very dangerous disease, but it is also one when we start breaking those barriers. As ons begin gesels daaroor en die stigmas rondom dit breek en al die lelik en die naar, dan kan ons lewens red.
Ja.
En ek dink die tyd het gekom dat ons begin bewusmaking skep, maar dat ons verstaan waaroor die bewusmaking ook gaan. And this is why National Cancer Awareness Week was established. And so for the first week in August traditionally, we host National Cancer Awareness Week. And I'm very, very excited, gentlemen, that this year especially, it has moved to 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks, because we're having it in Windhoek and we're currently having a big screening clinic at the Cancer Association head office, at our medical center. And then next week we are along the coast. En dit sluit ook in by ons nasionale kankeruitreikprogram waar ons dwars deur die land gaan en probeer uitkom by die landelike gebiede. You know, the rural parts of the country have a big challenge, Kaufeee. They haven't got access to screening, they haven't got access to information, they haven't got access to cancer clinic. And this is not even just cancer. It is non-communicable and rare diseases. And we hope that through this little booklet and by this initiative, we will get out there, we will have people coming to the table and asking, but also Namibians going to the Ministry of Health and Social Services and demanding their right and access to healthcare.
Weet jy Rolf, ons praat nou maar altyd en gister was nou 'n tipiese oggend waar ons gesê het, is die appeldag nog aan? Is die haarsprei of die baardsprei aan? Maar toe ek nou deur die boekie blaai, toe besef ek maar daar's baie meer as die twee events wat ons nou maar net tradisioneel maar net ken.
Traditionally over the years that have kind of ingrown, you know, okay. But by all means, we're still buying our apples.
You better.
Yeah, sure. No. But yeah.
So wat tackle julle nog?
So die appelprojek, ons tradisionele bankvind toe kankerappelprojek word die 3de week in Augustus van stapel gestuur. And the Bankvind to Cancer Apple project truly is our largest fundraiser. But obviously, like Gitta has said in the previous slot, COVID has messed us all about. We had to take a back seat. We couldn't go out with our big projects and fundraisers because of the limitations and the COVID protocols.
Yes.
This also means that we could not be out there PR-wise as we wanted to.
Sure.
We couldn't go out for clinics because we couldn't have public clinics. Everyone was afraid of COVID. So we had to be office-bound. And because we couldn't do fundraising, we obviously couldn't PR and be out there as well. And then comes the challenge, like with tourism, like with, I think, any industry where you are engaging the public all the time. Now we need to reposition ourselves strategically, operationally, functionally to understand the needs out there in society. Cancer didn't go away. Health problems didn't go away. It in fact escalated because of COVID. So what we now need to do is reposition ourselves from scratch. En dit is waaroor al hierdie ander projekte weer gaan. Kleiner projekkies, die groot mainliners, maar tussentydse projekkies, bewusmaking, klinieke, ondersteuningsprogramme vir ons pasiënte. I think that the frustration of patients at this stage is the greatest because there are a lot of patients who went through cancer. A dear ex-colleague of mine from my media years as well phoned me the other day, and this colleague was very emotional because this person felt absolutely trapped and frustrated because everything that happened during COVID with their cancer diagnosis, it was so frustrating because just traveling to South Africa for treatment, getting treatment here, it was so frustrating.
It's like a mission.
Yes.
You know, where in the past it was way easier, and now all those rules, you're absolutely right. I've never even thought of it like that.
Weet jy, Rolf, ek wil hê jy moet graag bietjie gesels en ek dink nie ons dink so ver nie. Ek gaan nou stelling maak en ek wil nie dit moet 'n negatiewe stelling wees nie. Met baie van hierdie fundraisers kry mense die gevoel van iemand sê, ag, hulle soek nou alweer geld vir kanker. Ag, hulle verkoop nou alweer koekies vir kanker. Moet ons nou weer appels koop? Maar weet jy, wat was my opvallend en wat my nogal geruk het? Toe ons eendag 'n gesprek gehad het, en ek wil hê jy moet dit vir ons kykers vertel en dit deel met ons luisteraars. Die toestand van die kankersale vir kinders wat haglik is en daar is nie geld nie. Dit het my geruk want dit kan my kind wees, dit kan jou kind wees. Dit kan vriende se kinders wees. Maar dat daar nie wasbakke is, want daar's nie eers gordyne in daardie saal. En praat bietjie met ons en verduidelik bietjie wat gaan daar.
Nou, ek is baie dankbaar en verheug om te sê dat die situasie het verander na ons laaste gesprek.
Okay.
Juis omdat die kankervereniging glo dat hoewel dit nie ons geboue is nie, is dit ons verantwoordelikheid as 'n besorgde gemeenskap om saam te staan. En dit is waaroor die kankervereniging gaan. Ons gaan nie behandeling gee nie, dit is buite ons mandaat. Ons wil nie betrokke raak want daar's politiek en pryse en farma en die een koop vir daai een uit en daar's te veel van hierdie tipe dramas reg oor die wêreld. Maar wat ondersteuning aan betref om om ons gemeenskap te kan ondersteun so ver moontlik. En dit het beteken ons kon met projekvennote uitreik en ons kon sê ons as kankervereniging wil die sale opknap, ons wil bietjie hand gee. Ons weet die ministerie van Gesondheid het tekortkominge en ons gaan nie by politiek betrokke raak nie. We're here to help better Namibia.
Hoekom is mans skugter om te gaan vir toetse?
Want hulle is almal bang vir die vingertjie. Nee?
Maar dit is reël. Ons kan nie daarvan af wegkom nie. Dit is en wat wil jy vir die manne sê?
Tegnologie verander en ons is baie bevoorreg en ons is baie dankbaar dat ons met tegnologie kan vorentoe beweeg en jy kom eenvoudig vir 'n bloedtoetsie prik van die vinger, 3 druppeltjies bloed op ons toetsapparaatjie, and then you can actually know your PSA levels are elevated or not, and if you do not come to us, you can actually go to your GP and ask for a full blood count. So dis asof jy 'n normale vial of blood trek. And it's so straightforward. Send it off to the lab if the PSA, prostate specific antigen levels are very high. It's indicative that there is a problem with your prostate.
Right.
And gents, I really want to encourage you, 40 years and older, please do start going, especially if you have a family history, because a full PSA blood count test can actually save your life. By the time that you start seeing the signs and symptoms of prostate cancer, it's generally too late. And then comes that snip and cut and all those horrible surgical interventions that the men are afraid of. Dan kom nou die impotensie en my huwelikslewe en bedlewe en my girlfriend en my lover en my vrou en almal is ontstel. So rather go for your annual blood screening at your GP, Ministry of Health and Social Services or at the Cancer Association. En enigiemand wat ek weet julle broadcast oor see ook of in Suid-Afrika. Just go and ask for a PSA blood test for prostate cancer.
So you say jaarliks of jaarliks?
That is actually a very good statement that you're making there, because if you do it yearly and you don't know what month to do it in, I have to say I do it, and I always choose my birthday month. Might be good. But if your birthday month, let's say, is in December and you're on holiday, perhaps choose another month of your liking, maybe your mom's birthday month. But then, if you keep it in that cycle by doing it at the same time every year, you're already in it. And by the time your GP or whoever does the checkup, they've got the documents with you and say, okay, no, last year that was like this, let's have a look, let's compare, and then you can compare a couple of years and, you're just so much more ready for it.
And especially when you're married or in a relationship, the best I can recommend is you and your partner go, whether you're husband and wife or wife and wife or husband and husband, go as a couple, get your health checked out. Things happen, we make mistakes, know your status, HIV, STDs, do a full screen, blood screen. If you've got a medical aid, you're very fortunate, but if you do not go to a Ministry of Health and Social Services clinic, we have lobbied for, and these tests are now available at health centers throughout the country.
That's good news.
So we've got buy-in from the ministry, and all you need to do is just ask them, do the blood test, it's on the form, you can do it, the ministry pays for it, and let's look after our health.
Het COVID havoc gesaai onder kankerpasiënte die afgelope 2 jaar?
Dit was 'n nagmerrie geweest. A total nightmare. We had to send chemotherapy throughout the country. A few of my partner doctors, because the roads or the borders of the country was closed up. So ons moes so 'n bietjie medisyne deur die land smokkel en in agterkamertjies hier en daar gee. Ons moes doen wat ons moet doen om ons pasiënte te beskerm en red. En ons pasiënte het swaar gekry. Mense het hulle werke verloor. Toerisme het groot gelei. Toerisme is een van ons grootste werkgewers in die land. En ons het gesien baie van ons pasiënte of Namibiërs het mediese fondse of kanselleer of goedkoper afgradeer. En dan kom 'n kankerdiagnose of 'n rare siekte, a rare or a dread disease. And then you've all of a sudden got no access to those medical aid benefits that you've paid for years.
Maar dis waar, nee.
En is altyd so 'n klokslag.
Ja.
Jy dink, ag ek is jonk, ek is okay. Ek dink ek gaan nog so vir 5 jaar van my mediese fonds afgaan
Ja.
en dan gaan jy af en dan 2 weke later, hier kom 'n diagnose of 'n
Yes.
moeilike situasie. So it is also very important, please go to your medical aid and negotiate, get a plan so that you are somehow covered, even if it's not your day-to-day benefits.
Ja.
Go and get yourself a form of cover. Alles het 'n hospitaalplan. Dis altyd
dat
wat
daar
vir
net
mense
iets
Sure.
is.
Ietsie.
Ja.
Sure.
Wat het die duur geraak, die hospitale en klinieke op hierdie stadium, en ons het 'n week, 2 weke gelede het ek gehoor van 'n situasie waar iemand in die nag in 'n ongeluk betrokke was by die kliniek aangekom en het gesê nie 'n kliniek nie, by 'n hospitaal, die hospitaal het sê ons wil 'n R30,000 deposito hê.
En dis soos dit is.
En dit is
Waar kry jy 30?
Waar lê
Nou,
daar
daai tyd van die
30,000
nag.
rond? Ja, we
So dis een van daai goed. Voordat ons vir jou baie dankie sê vir jou tyd, wil ek dan net gou weet, die fondse wat jy insamel word baie wyd gebruik. Ek dink as ons praat oor al die inisiatiewe waar jy betrokke is, gaan ons 'n dag lank gesels. Ons hoop om een van die dae 2 tot 3 ure lank uit te saai en dan gaan ons jou terugbring in elk geval ook terugbring om te gesels oor die suksesse van Augustus maand. Maar die julle werk baie hard in die landelike gemeenskap. Ver afgeleë dorpies en klinieke. Gou so 'n bietjie meer daarvan.
Ja, so die kankervereniging se fonds, alle fondse wat ons insamel en dit is absoluut kardinaal. Elkeen wat daar buite kyk en luister wat altyd vra, hoekom moet ons vir die kankervereniging gee? Wat doen hulle met die geld?
Ja.
Hulle betaal net salarisse en ons kry niks nie. I really want to encourage you, please rethink, and my door is always open, come and speak to me. Ons het 'n baie streng finansiële beleid en ons het 'n goeie beleggings portefeulje waar ons die surplus van elke jaar belê vir toekomstige generasies sodat die kankervereniging kan aangaan. We've been around for almost 60 years. I think we know what we do.
Right.
But the money is directly invested in our people, in our patients, in support. We've got the National Cancer Outreach Program, soos jy sê, waar ons dwars deur die land gaan en klinieke aanbied. Ons het die finansiële hulpsorgprogram, Patient Financial Assistance Program, where we financially try to assist to the best of our abilities following a board-approved framework to help patients. We've got a transportation assistance program om ons pasiënte van dwars oor die land in te bring na Windhoek toe, want alles gebeur hier in Windhoek.
Ja.
We've got accommodation support program met ons 2 tussentydse wonings, 2 interim homes where our patients can come and stay.
Yeah.
They get 3 meals a day, we transport them. We've got the children's house, we've got the children's fund, and we've got the psychosocial support program, Circle of Hope, because mental well-being and health is critical with all of us, but especially when you're facing a rare and a dreaded disease. So gaan asseblief op ons webwerf, gaan op Facebook, kyk en soek die antwoorde na die vrae wat jy het. And if you are unhappy, if you feel you haven't got all the answers, phone us, contact me, come sit and drink tea. Vir alles het so koud is, hou ek van koffie drink, baie koffie drink, so kom sit en gesels. Dan gesels ons en ons maak 'n verskil. Ek dink dis die belangrikste. Moenie net negatief wees omdat u nie weet waaroor dit gaan nie. Be informed and then you make the right decisions.
Rolf, baie duisende dankies en sterkte vir jou besige dag en nog meer sterkte vir die gelukwensing met julle boekie en dan alle voorspoed vir die maand wat voorlê. Dis nie net 'n dag nie, dis 'n hele maand. Om die waarheid te sê, dis 'n hele jaar. En 1 jaar lei na die volgende jaar met nuwe uitdagings, groter projekte en soveel meer fondse wat benodig is. En ek hoop jy het 'n warmer dag. Goeie nuus is, dit word warmer van môre af.
Praise
the weather. I need to. I've got to prepare for the weather. I
Jy
forgot
moet in
about
elk
that.
Ek het dink ons begin pak al die spiros en die goed stof afpak terug, goodbye.
So ons gaan gou na advertensie kyk, dan daarna gaan ons kyk wie het vandag hallo gesê en dan gaan ek in daardie tyd is Kaufeee dit vir ons gee, gaan ek vir Mark Paxton bel. Hy gaan gou gesels oor die International Rangers Day. Wat gebeur met die Game Rangers in Namibia en Suid-Afrika? Die erkenning wat hulle kry of geen erkenning wat hulle kry nie en hulle behoeftes en uitdagings wat voorlê. So Rolf, baie dankie. Sterkte vir
Tot 'n
jou.
volgende
Dankie
keer.
Rolf, dit was baie nice om jou te hê.
Wat sy was 'n strip.
Yeah. Was that not fantastic interviewees that we had this morning?
En weet jy
I
wat
think that was great.
Wat het my opgeval? Is die absolute totale oorgawe en entoesiasme.
Ja.
Weet jy, dit is asof ek sit hier en ek dink by myself, ons het nie 'n idee nie.
Ja.
Wat aangaan in die wêreld van toerisme en bewaring.
Ja.
Ons dink ons weet, omdat ons dalk by 'n plek gaan bly het of gaan kamp het, of ons het kus toe gery. Ons gaan volgende week met Dinsdag met Daan Roep praat. Hy's heel waarskynlik gaan 'n telefoniese oproep wees. Hy sê vir my gisterand, jy weet hy is nou al jare besig, 12, 15 jaar besig met sy uitgawe die Infostream Namibia. Hy sê vir my Dirkas, in hierdie roetes wat ons nou gery het.
Ja.
Daar's nuwe paaie. Daar's nuwe ontwikkeling by lodges. Daar's nuwe goed wat gebeur wat ek in my lewe nie gesien het of van weet nie.
It just shows you.
Hy sê by die gasteboeke by die lodges.
Yes.
Al die inskrywings
Ja.
is buitelanders, maar die Namibiërs is nie daar nie. Ons weet nie van die goed nie. So ons gaan volgende week 'n bietjie gesels oor dit wat jy nie weet wat gebeur intussen tyd nie. So COVID was 'n slegte tyd, maar dit was ook 'n goeie tyd want mense het gesê ek moet iets doen. En toe bou hulle. Kyk vir Kamp Vrede.
Yes.
Die advertensie wat jy nou net gesien het, die kompetisie hierdie naweek. Goed, kom ons kyk gou na die boodskap.
Let's have a look at some of your comments. Our apologies that we haven't read them yet. We have a jam-packed session today. But in the meantime, we've got Maren Retief saying Guten Morgen. Hallo, goeiemôre, sê natuurlik ons groot vriend Piet van Piet Spies van Suid-Afrika af.
As ek kyk, maak antwoord, maar lees nog.
En natuurlijk sê Piet ook, global warming is erg op julle. Ek sou sê, ons kry op die oomblik 'n bietjie koud hierso in Namibia. André Karikis Carstens, good morning guys and girls. Sonja Breitschneider says, môre môre. Terry Jenkinson was watching. En Sonja sê toe, daai is 'n eystervrou. She's of course referring to Gitta Paetzold, the CEO of the Hospitality Association of Namibia. She says, thank you goodness for her and that industry. We totally agree with you, Sonja. Esther Kani saying good morning, and also Lizelle Kotze saying great guest and belangrike topic, referring to Rolf here, who was next to us just a couple of minutes ago.
So ek gaan Kaufeee gaan weer kyk. Ek weet dat nee, hoekom bel ek nou vir Rolf? Ek wil nie vir Rolf bel nie. Ek wil vir kom ons kyk of ons vir Mark Paxton en
Ja.
Kijk, dis eintlik wie ek soek. So kom ons kyk of ons hom in die hande kan kry. Ek weet hulle sit, hy is 'n toer in 'n afgeleë gebied. Maar kom ons kyk gou. Ek het vanoggend 'n bietjie gesukkel om
Might be that he's a bit busy.
Ja, wel dit jy weet die syne daar. So ek sê ons het vanoggend regtig maar 'n bietjie gesukkel om met mekaar te gesels.
Right.
So ons kyk of ons hom dalk in die hande kan kry. Maar dit gegee, ons het nog een of twee ander goedjies waaroor ons wil gesels en kom ons gee dit 'n kans. Ek gaan net gou kyk of ek hier 'n ander nommer het van hom. We gaan nog een keer probeer en dan gaan ons oor ander gebeure van die dag gesels en dit is die diefstal wat aan die gang is en mense wat elder oordag aangeval word.
The crime issue in Namibia is picking up.
So ons het dit ook daar, maar ons gaan nou daaroor gesels. Kom ons kyk net vinnig of ons vermaak kry. Waar is hy?
Hello.
Daar is hy. Morning, Mark.
Hi, Dirk.
Yeah, welcome here from a very cold Windhoek. It's one of the coldest days this year. How's the weather on your side?
Yeah, it's slightly cold, but it's colder than it's been for the last sort of week or so. We had a lot of overcast weather, but it's not as cold as it should be in winter time.
Yeah, Mark, thanks very much for joining us. I just quickly want you to just tell us a little bit more about the International Rangers Day that happened on Sunday, but also sort of like a little bit of an overview as to the involvement of Namibia and South Africa in such organizations.
Well, International Rangers Day has been going for several years on the 31st of July. um, and it's been very successful. It seemed to gain more momentum in the last 2 or 3, maybe 4 years. We started a WhatsApp group which is called the African Rangers Network, and on that you can see that we've got a lot of input from all the African countries, all the rangers from all the African countries and beyond. And one can see from that it's taken off tremendously. It was also an initiative started by our Namibian group, and now totally run by GRA South Africa, but it involves the whole of African rangers. And, it's a day basically to celebrate rangers. Like everybody celebrates Mother's Day, Father's Day, Women's Day, and so on and so forth. This is basically a day for rangers. One of the unappreciated and unrecognized group of people possibly ever. We're only gaining some understanding now in the last sort of 10 years or so, with more emphasis on what we're about, what we do, and what role we play in the world. So it's a celebration of rangers, and it does pull together all the rangers as such, because a lot of these guys, have very little interaction with each other, and certainly very little interaction with rangers in other countries. And because of this African Rangers network that we've established, they are now in touch within seconds. So, everybody's sharing messages with each other. And, for guys in the bush, that's, risking their lives every day and the lives of their families. And let me tell you, the risks out there are tremendous. So for those kind of guys to have a little bit of a camaraderie is extremely, extremely important.
Mark, just a question. It seems like the rangers up in Africa, and I'm not just referring to Kenya and those places, but they are very, very active, and then Namibia, South Africa, more on the quiet side. What do you think is the reason for that?
Yeah, no, it's a bit disturbing. It's not really South Africa. South Africa is very involved. Unfortunately, Namibia not so, because rangers throughout the world are disciplined, regimentated, because that's part of the training of rangers, has been for centuries. And Namibian rangers are not sort of steer away from being regimented, probably from the old days. There's a stigma attached, so there's not a lot of in uniform disciplining with parades and so on, like they have in the rest of Africa and in South Africa. I'd say regimentation amongst ranger group is a common thing, except here in Namibia. So there's very little of that going on. There are a few groups, mostly private, and a few other groups that do have well organized and good-looking ranger groups, ranger parades, and so on and so forth. But it's by far very seldom. It's not the norm, and especially in the government ranger circles, where everybody is basically, all the rangers consider them civil servants, and that's about it. That's the reason. That you don't see the kind of very smart stepping out rangers that you do in the rest of Africa.
It's sad, because it's the old story about divided we stand, divided we'll fall.
Yeah, no, I suppose so. These networks get everybody together, but there's nothing better than a group where you are disciplined. You've got to be you look after your health, your physical health. You look after your uniform. You're proud of your uniform. You don't walk around in civvies like most of our rangers tend to do. You're proud of a uniform, and that draws everybody together. And it's got a stigma attached to it in Namibia very clearly. So that stigma has to be removed for it to be anyway, sort of similar to the rest of Africa. And I'd say South Africa is not like that. South Africa Kruger Park, all the major reserves, especially Natal Parks, KwaZulu-Natal, down the Free State, those guys are all regimentated. They don't seem to have a problem with saluting and walking around and stepping out and parades and so on. So it's a sad thing for Namibia, but hopefully with all this Rangers Day being out in the media, that Rangers here will see that there's nothing meant by it. There's no hidden message. Just pulling together. Divided we fall. Together we stand.
Yeah. Last but not least, it's also sad to report that since 2021, about 100 Rangers lost their lives. And I would imagine it's the fight against poaching and theft.
No, it's always sad to see the roll of honour, and that's also on the Rangers group, on the Rangers network as well. It outlines the fact that in the rest of Africa, not so much in Namibia, in South Africa as well as the rest of Africa, Rangers are in the firing line every single day of their lives. And, more so Central Africa, DRC, those kind of places where it's war regions, war conflict. But, and in those places, it's poachers as well as militia groups and so on. That are taking them out. Whereas the rest of Africa, especially South Africa, it's poachers taking them out. It's poaching groups that are waging war on the Rangers, and that's what Rangers all over the place have become more militarized than ever before, because it's a war. And the poachers are basically the enemy, and they're killing Rangers at a tremendous rate.
Mark, thank you very much, and I hope you're going to enjoy your guest today and have a lovely day there on the river, and we'll make contact with you soon. And from your side, if you've got any interesting news, then please make sure that you contact us.
Yeah, sure, I will. Thank you, Dirk. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, good.
And all the best to the Rangers out there.
Thank you, Mark. There we go.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Cheers.
Daar is het Kaufeee.
Here
Interessant.
we have it. Interesting topic, hey? Mark Paxton?
Full of information.
Absolutely.
Full of information, and it's so true that the Rangers are taking the bullets for conservation. And it was very sad that one YouTube video about the Rangers in South Africa, a beautiful video has been made, sort of like just to celebrate his life and what he did. And then he was actually murdered, and his wife was shot, but I think she's on recovery. Right. Talking about shots, we reported on a sort of like a thing that's popping up, and hier gaan het oor in die middel van die dag, diewe wat toeslaan, die net begin steel.
Absolutely. We just got a comment from Lizelle Kotze. Sy sê mense by Maroa taxi rank begin ook handsakke uit hande gryp, versigtig wees as jy daar verbyloop.
Ja, nou ons het net gister daaroor gepraat.
Exactly.
Oor toeriste wat aangeval word, en net gister toe begin dinge verder sy kop uitsteek, en iemand het sê, wel, lyk my die Desember inkopies begin vroeg.
Yes.
En ek weet dit was as 'n grap bedoel, maar dit is alles behalwe grap, en dit lyk weliswaar of hierdie aan die toeneem is, as ek nou sien wat Lizelle sê. En dan kan ons sien, die ouens word, die ene word aangehou, aangeraand. En die ander ou stap net verby, daai ou stap dood eenvoudig doodluiters verby, asof daar niks gebeur nie.
And you see the guy at the back there patrolling, checking the perimeter.
Of hy het 'n revolver of 'n ding in sy sak.
He's got a pistol in his hand.
Hierdie ou word beroof.
Yes.
Van foon en alles, daar gaan sy foon. Daai ou het 'n pistool in sy hand.
He's now taken his car keys away from him, and he's now on the verge of opening up the door. Luckily he got smacked by the door on his head there. So, yes.
Daar gaan die geld.
And then he gets left alone.
En dan gaan die taxi ander en spring in. En dan gaan hom. So,
and that is what happened, but that's what's happening to us.
Gelukkig in hierdie geval kon hulle ook in 'n mate 'n soort van voertuie en goed identifiseer, maar dit het nou van Sondag af het dit nou toegeneem.
Ja.
Sommige net letterlik oornag. syndikate wat in die werk is, ons weet dit gebeur in Windhoek, gebeur ook in ander dorpe. So, ouens wees op die uitkyk. Dan nog 'n storie wat regtig waar gister hartseer was 'n blanke vrou wat probeer het om 'n kind by 'n skool, wat sal mense noem?
Kidnap.
Te steel.
Yes,
Ja.
kidnapping is
En
what it
sy
was
gelukkig-
referred to.
Ja, sy was gelukkig, het ander ouers dit raak gesien
Yes.
en onmiddellik die polisie ontbied.
What we are unsure of at this particular case, in that particular incident, whether there might have been some mental health issues involved, we don't know. But yeah, these kind of things do happen. So be more aware of your surroundings.
Yeah.
That is what Dirkas and I are saying. You know, just be a little bit more vigilant and a little bit more prepared in terms of your surroundings.
Ja, dis baie hartseer. Ons gaan nie daai video wys nie. Dit is te persoonlik en mens weet nie wat die omstandighede is nie, maar 'n vrou wat by 'n skool opgedaag het, hier baie naby aan ons en wou daar 'n kindjie steel.
Yes.
En sy het allerlei verskonings aangebied toe die ander ouens dit raak sien en die ouers het doodevoudig haar gestop. Hulle het onmiddellik die polisie ontbied.
Ja.
Hartseer. Hartseer dat dit besig is om te gebeur, maar julle kan altyd saam met ons gesels deur vir ons boodskapies te stuur. Regstreeks hier, ons lees hulle soos wat hulle inkom. Julle kan ook vir ons WhatsApp stuur by 081 432 8233.
Yes.
Enigiets anders wat ons na gaan kyk, nuus.
This stage, yes, due to our guest this morning, as we always open up with a newspaper, today Dirkas and I have decided to do it the other way around.
Bietjie later, ja.
We'll just do the local news, just very in brief as to what is standing in the newspapers this morning. Let me just get my glasses, where afterwards we will be looking at the weather before we say goodbye. The Namibian is reporting today, and here we have it on the headlines. The headlines say, "Don't travel overseas, Mr. President." And the newspaper is saying that businesses urge Geingob to rather deal with imminent strike. State House confirms cancellation of visits to Jamaica and also Cuba. President says he suspects a right to peaceful industrial action. So now, this is important. You know, our heads of state, our ministers, they quite often have to or are traveling into international countries. And obviously what they're doing, they're over and above that, they're representing Namibia. They're looking for business opportunities in those countries for foreign investment to come in. So it is a normal practice in government that some of our heads of state and senior state people need to travel overseas. However, the Namibian Local Business Association, also known as NALOBA, has called on President Hage Geingob and ministers to halt international trips in order to save money and rather to do everything in their power to avoid civil servant strike. The association also suggested that the cash-strapped government give 10% of tax revenue collected from civil servants back to them to stave off industrial action. Now, the different angles to this particular story, Dirk, are actually quite interesting. One is, of course, you know, let's say, for example, you were to be the CEO of an organization. We all know that the Namibian government is the largest employer in the country. And, you know, if you, in your organization, your company, have got an imminent strike on your doorstep, obviously what it is that you want to do is stay at home.
Yeah.
We've seen already other countries, prime ministers, presidents, in times of hardship in that country, travel back to that country. You know, we've seen it in a case of, let's say, law or murder. We've seen it in America in the past, you know, looting on the streets, where state business people have cut their visits short and traveled back to that country.
Natuurlik, als ek 'n tipe van goed die ouens onmiddellik aksie neem.
Correct.
Het sal interessant wees om hier te kyk wat gaan gebeur.
Yes.
Die ander ding wat ek ook raak gelees het vanoggend is die feit dat ons weet nog nie wat die datums is nie.
Yes.
En hoe die datums uitgerol gaan word.
You're talking in terms of the strike
Heeltemal
now.
correct.
Yes.
Heeltemal correct.
Because there seems to be also a strategy being planned, or at least being discussed, in terms of how to strike, when to strike, where to strike.
Ja, ons sal maar kyk.
We're going to have to check it
Dit
out.
gaan baie interessant wees. Dan nog headlines, die Namibiese polisie het 55 geweergranate tot niet gemaak wat langs die pad gevind is, hier op die Koeverbergpad. Nou interessant dat hulle eers die eerste klomp geweergranate gekry, wat blykbaar langs die pad gelos is, weggegooi is. En dan sê hulle dis van Suid-Afrikaanse herkoms. Nou daar loop 'n bond ding wat die storie aan betref. Maar toe die eerste klomp hulle dit daar tot niet gemaak, laat ontplof en toe het hulle op 'n tweede klomp afgekom. So ek verstaan nie daardie hoeveelheid 55 van hierdie ploftoestelle wat net doodeenvoudig daar gevind is.
Ja.
Kom ons kyk of ons 'n bietjie meer inligting daaroor kan kry. Gaan lees gerus wat dit aan
And especially in the central parts of the country, hey? Usually we would like to, well, not would like to, usually we see it in the previous northern war-torn areas.
Ja, maar dis net so om hier buitekant Windhoek.
Heeltemal reg.
Ja, in die Koeverberg pas.
Yes.
So, maar net nog 'n interessante storie wat daar is. Kom ons kyk gou weer na wat die weer gewys het vanoggend en dan hoor ons wat Kaufeee vir ons te sê het oor môre en dalk die res van die week. Maar as ek baie koue weer, dit lyk vir ons mikrofoon is nog steeds oop.
Ja.
Vir my daar op -13
Vanoggend.
-13 grade. Seker die koudste wat Windhoek nog was, -9.
Yes.
En dan het het nog aangegaan daarna ISAP camp -13. En so het dit aangegaan. Kapsval -9 vanoggend. Wat een ou het vanoggend gesê -15.
Ja. Wel, in my yskas was dit vanoggend 4 grade.
Waar het jy geslaap gisterand?
Binne in die yskas. Want dit is al warmer as buite.
Binne die yskas onder my kombers. En dan het ek melk gaan uithaal uit die yskas.
Yes.
Om koffie te maak vanoggend.
No, but it's really cold southern Namibia and central parts.
Koue nag gewees en 'n koue vanoggend. Ja. Maar dit lyk my dit word bietjie warmer. Geef vir ons die voorspelling.
All right, so we don't have the update for Namibia's weather for tomorrow as yet, but cooler weather will prevail during the course of the day, so please keep your jackets on, stay warm. But we tend to see a turning point in terms of the weather. Tomorrow it's not expected to be as cold as it was today. Google is telling us that we might expect weathers of 1 degree Celsius. Okay. And then on Thursday, we're looking at 6 degrees minimum, Friday at 8, Saturday 7. Sunday could be dicey again. Hey? So
dit word weer kouer in die naweek.
it all has something to do with the precipitation. Met die wat noem jy dit?
Sê maar, precipitation.
Ja,
Kos bly daarby.
yes.
Ek weet
dit lê nou op die tong, maar in elk geval, as dit begin reën, die lugvochtigheid. There we go, the lugvochtigheid. That's the one that I was.
Jy moet liewer
It's just when I start thinking ahead and my voice follows, you know. It's what we media people do.
Los as jy in Afrikaans die storie het, hou hom daarby. Dit is vir altyd die maklikste.
Yes.
Jy moet Engels het, hou hom in Engels.
Yes.
Anders raak ek kopfoos wat dit aan betref. So ons het nie werklik waar iets vir môre nog niks by
Nog nie. The Met Office has not updated anything for tomorrow. Today maximums, Windhoek can expect a maximum of 16. That is maar nog steeds koud. But if we look at the south of the country, and let's just make a turn, Rehoboth today also 16. My favorite place is of course Mariental is 16, Keetmanshoop is 20. So temperatures in the south are slowly but surely starting to pick up. Gobabis can expect a maximum of 22 today, and then the north, of course, much warmer. Katima Mulilo at 28, and then Okakweo at 23, Ondangwa at 25.
Goed, weer eens 1000 dankies vir die besoekers wat ons vandag gehad het. Was sommer 'n mond vol, propvol inligting. Baie dankie aan Mark vir jou bydrae. Doel van die Kaprivi af en die inligting wat hy vir ons gegee het oor die International Rangers Day. Nou môre gesels ons met Tom, met Tafchik, hy gaan nie wees.
Dis reg.
En bietjie verder gesels net oor mense wat belangstel om 'n kursus te doen. Ek wil net sê die kursusse wat hulle aanbied is nie net vir studente nie.
Yes.
Hulle bied dit aan vir maatskappye, mans en vrouens. Ouens wat in Woensdae is eintlik altyd oor stokperdjies. So maar hy gaan môre 'n bietjie meer gesels want ons kan hom vra nou oor werksgeleenthede en die jong mense wat opgelei word vir lodges, vir hotelle en vir gastehuise.
Yes.
Maar die doel is ook vir hom om te kom gesels oor soos ek en jy wat dalk belangstel hoe om te leer om wyn reg te bedien. Jy weet,
So we're talking about the the hospitality trade.
Correct.
You know, the chefs, cooking, bartending, waitressing. You know,
skill,
that
jy
kind.
kan-
Baking.
Ja, presies. Jy en vroulief of jou vriendin of jy en 'n pel kan ook so intoe gaan want interessante kursusse reg deur die jaar soos gaan met hom daaroor gesels.
Ja.
So dis môre en dan donderdag is dit net ek sê maar net en dan Vrydag is die 2 chefs hier in die ateljee wat lekker kan kom gesels.
That's it.
Baie dankie vir julle bydrae. Julle is natuurlik baie welkom om vir ons meer inligting te stuur. Na die tyd te gaan kyk op YouTube en stuur julle kommentare.
Please do.
So Kaufeee van my af eers baie dankie.
From me, it's cheerio, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
Môre is alweer klein Saterdag.
Dis reg.
Daai glühwein ding. Ek het dit gebring. Miskien moet ons maar kyk of ons
Vanmôre,
môre.
ja.
Goed, just bye.
Bye.